The NBA offseason just continues to shape up to be very, very interesting one. Steve Kerr talks about his future and a possible return to the Golden State Warriors next season. Anthony Davis is putting pressure on the Washington Wizards of all teams to hear a championship plan. And we're going to look at the offseason outlook for the Sacramento Kings. All that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to continue going by each of the teams that did not make the playoffs or the play-in and talk about their offseason outlook. But we're going to talk about news in regards to that before we get into that. And we have two pieces of news in regards to Steve Kerr and in regards to Anthony Davis. So there's a lot been made up in air on what's going to happen with Steve Kerr. Well, he's made it known that he is open to return next season. It just comes down to, what's going on there. Now, he did sign a 2-year, $35 million extension in 2024, which ends at the end of this season. And in regards to that, he was asked about what's going on with his tenure with the Golden State Warriors. He said this in regards to his contract and everything else. It doesn't factor in. That's something I'll address after the season ends. My focus is all on the Clippers, and I'm excited about trying to get buy into the playoffs. He said this as well. Coming in and seeing the guys having a film session, trying to help them win, and having dinner with the coaches and the camaraderie that exists when you are in a foxhole together. You've lost 5 in a row, and it sucks. It's all relative. It sucks, but it's also awesome to be with a group of guys and try to win a basketball game. I love it all, and you have to embrace the challenge and the fact that every year is just going to be different. Now we know that Steve Kerr has won titles. He won 9 titles as a player, right? An Olympic gold medal coaching the Team USA in 2024. He's won titles as a coach. He's one of the most decorated coaches and overall player coaches, the combination there. He's done it all, right? And so the Golden State Warriors, who are hoping this season to make a big splash move to keep their team being able to be a contender around Steph Curry, that's always been a question there. Now, do I expect Steve Kerr to sign some huge deal? No, he may sign a 1-year deal and come back and ride off into the sunset with Steph. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. But hearing that he is open to come back, I'm sure that is something that a lot of Golden State Warriors fans love to hear, that he is open to come back because, there was a question there. And, Steph, wants to be coached by Kerr. And I think Steph would love for him, Dre, and Clay, and if he was still there to all, and Steve Kerr to all ride off into the sunset together, and let the sun set on his successful career. But those things aren't always meant to happen. I think it's going to come down to a few things, right? Like Steve Kerr is going to look at his health. He's going to look at his personal things, the things that motivate him. But also, what is the good plan for the Golden State Warriors to improve this team? The Jimmy Butler was their all-in trade. It didn't work out. And now that he's torn his ACL, there's some serious concerns and some doubt about exactly how good he's even going to be when he does come back. So Steve Kerr is going to figure that out. But we'll see what's going to happen. He's been with Golden State since taking the job in 2013, 14-ish is when he's taking that job. So we're well over a decade. And Steve Kerr will see what the rest of the career holds for him. But let me know what you hear down below. Hearing this from Steve Kerr in regards to what could happen with this future, how do you feel about it? Let me know that down below. With that said, let's get on to the Anthony Davis thing. So one of the more surprising trades at the trade deadline, not only was Trae Young going to the Washington Wizards, but also was the Washington Wizards trading for Anthony Davis, right? And, in that sense that, that of all the teams that could trade for Anthony Davis, nobody really had it pegged that the Washington Wizards would be that team. But apparently not only does Anthony Davis want to hear a championship plan from the Wizards before committing long-term, he also could be putting pressure to get a trade out of that franchise. This is the quote. This comes from Anthony Davis. This is this. Whether we figure something out in the summer that's good or bad, if it doesn't get figured out, then come October, mid-October, late October, I will have a Washington Wizards uniform on, and we'll go out there and we'll do everything that I can to win a basketball game. In the summer right now, I'm going to compete, train, have a mindset that I will be here next year, not only because I'm under contract, but also I like the young guys. I ain't going to lie. I feel like they're all my children, first of all, which is crazy to say that. He also goes on to say this. I've been in the league a long time, and I've been with losing teams, been on losing teams. It's very hard to be a losing team and then a championship contender, right? The one team has only done it, Boston in 2008. Even when I was in New Orleans and we had 2 losing seasons, then we made the playoffs our 3rd year. That within itself is a huge jump. What is our plan for winning going into next season, and how? Not like this plan, but how do we execute that? And based on that, we'll kind of see what happens. So there's an extra dynamic for that one. Anthony Davis contract, when it comes, he's owed $58.5 million in 2026-27. He owes an option for $62.8 million in 2027-28. And so now there's some questions around it. Is he going to seek additional years on the deal, and whether Washington would even entertain that's going to happen? We'll see what's going to happen there. Like, Anthony Davis wanting to be in a championship situation shouldn't be surprising to anybody. It's a player that's won a title. And, there's now those rumors going on. Evan Side is one that reported it. Take what he reports with a grain of salt, that it's now expected that Anthony Davis could put pressure on Washington to trade him to a championship team. So, we're going to see what's going to happen there. Anthony Davis needs to focus on staying on the fucking basketball court first, in my personal opinion, before worrying about being on a championship team or not. But I think this just goes to show that when the Wizards traded for Anthony Davis, it kind of caught everybody off guard. And reportedly, it also caught Anthony Davis off guard, as he did not expect not only not to be traded to the Wizards, but almost not to be traded at all, as he signaled that he was open to staying in Dallas. So that's going to be the thing that kind of factors all this in. Does Anthony Davis end up getting moved this offseason? For an offseason where there are not a lot of big free agent names out there, Anthony Davis could become a trade target for teams that don't make a move for Giannis or whatever else. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. But let me know what you guys think down below. Anthony Davis and his desire to be on a championship situation. Let me know what you guys feel on that. But with that said, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. We're going team by team for all the teams that did not make the play-in or the playoffs, and we're going to look at their offseason outlook. And the team that we're going to talk about now is the Sacramento Kings. The Kings have a very bleak financial outlook when it comes down, at least for the near future. Now, they do have some cap flexibility coming at the end of next season, but let's just take a look at the Sacramento Kings and their salary cap situation. You have Domantas Sabonis, who's owed $45.5 million next season. You also have Zach LaVine, who has a player option for $49 million next season. Those two players alone put you at $94.5 million, which is nearly halfway to the $201 million that the Sacramento Kings are projected at the luxury tax line, right? Then you have DeMar DeRozan's $24.8 non-guaranteed deal. More on that in a second. You have Keegan Murray in the first year of his extension at $24.1 million, and Malik Monk at $20 million as well. So when you take a look at this, right? And right now, per ESPN's Bobby Marks, the Kings are projected to have $225 million on the books for next year, which already puts them in the second tax apron. So that alone puts them as one of the more bleak financial situations in the entire league, that before any changes or anything happens, they're already in to the second tax apron. And that's where we know that teams do not want to be, especially for a team in the Sacramento Kings that won 22 games, right? So being in that spot already for the Kings puts them in just a sucky-ass situation. I know that's not the most technical term, but it is, right? They are, already into that second tax apron space, and that's what other things that are going on. Of course, the Zach LaVine, once that becomes final and he picks up that option, is there. So that is the biggest thing and knock here for the Sacramento Kings. Their financial situation is one of the most bleak in the league for a team that just did not, 22 wins, tied for the fourth worst record in the league. So when you have a salary that high, it sucks. Now, there is some wiggle room for the Sacramento Kings. You have DeMar DeRozan, who you can cut ties with him. He has a partial guarantee, so you save $10 million on his contract, right? So only $10 million is guaranteed. You have those $10 million still in the books. The rest of that you get some relief on. So you save a little over $15 million when you count in the second tax apron benefit of that, right? And then you also have Killian Haize. His contract, he has a $3 million team option, but he's looked pretty solid since joining the team. I don't know if they want to just move off that option because of it. But with that said, even though they have some salary cap flexibility coming up in the future, which I want to be clear here in this talk is that they do have, it still paints for a very bleak situation for them. So with that said, like the Kings, again, the salary cap, they don't have a lot of wiggle room there. Now, what are some of the things that are working for the Sacramento Kings? That's the thing that you want to look at. For one, they have a pick this year, and a pick that is going to be a top 10 pick, barring anything crazy happening, and they have the chance to get the number 1 overall pick. That is where this can turn around for the Kings. Some lottery luck or some draft luck, whatever you want to call it, for the Sacramento Kings completely makes the situation look a little bit more palatable for them, right? Because, yeah, you have Zach LaVine who's going to pick up the option. Luckily, it's the last year of that deal. You have Domantas Sabonis, who still has some teams that would absolutely trade for Domantas Sabonis. You can come off the DeMar DeRozan part of it if you want to. And then you can move forward with, your young guys in Keegan Murray, Nick Clifford, and other guys like that and move forward. You have those options to do that. Keep in mind, like I said, they're in the second tax apron without even making any moves. And you have players like Russell Westbrook that says he would love to come back to the Sacramento Kings because he got to kind of be himself with the Kings. And for Westbrook, a player that has been made the blame and the scapegoat for franchises and other stops, I'm sure that's something that feels really good for him and to be in that situation. But it really comes down to that, right? You want your young players next season to start looking like, if you do move on, if you do move into a new direction, that you kind of see what you have in those guys, right? But the salary cap nightmare is not something that you can ever overlook. They're overpaid. The limited, they just don't have a lot of flexibility this offseason to make a lot of wiggle room to make moves happen. So that's probably why when you hear things like the Sacramento Kings, Doug Christie's safe, he's going to have his job next year, even though a lot of people thought Doug Christie could get fired. A big reason why that's there is because they don't have a lot of room to do a lot of different things here. So if they don't get lottery luck, you're sitting in another season where you're just waiting for your financial situation to get much better. You're still going to add a top 10 pick in a deep draft regardless, right, in this draft. So that's the good part of it. But so they're not really incentivized to move on from Doug Christie, because why have a coach come in to coach to have a first lame duck season, even with you getting the number one or getting a top 10 pick, when the situation is as bleak as what it is financially, right? And so I would not be surprised to see the Sacramento Kings do something crazy like maybe even bring Russ back. Have one more season. Let it be as fun as it possibly could be. You're going into the lottery with a 45% chance at a top 4 pick, an 11.5% chance at the number 1 overall pick. Why not, let that play out the way it's going to play out? And then you can start kind of restructuring. That's the biggest thing that is this offseason outlook for the Sacramento Kings, is that it's really probably just going to be another year before you can really start making any movement out of this. Now, you can, like I said, you have the option to come off of DeMar DeRozan's contract. You have that option, right? You have the option to, try to move, your Domantas Sabonis. You have the option to do that, right? You have the option to try to move Malik Monk, who apparently you could have moved to the Golden State Warriors. You didn't want to take Jonathan Kuminga, but you have that option to do that too. So there are some options that are going to pop up as the season goes on if teams want to bite on Domantas Sabonis and Malik Monk. Zach LaVine is the last year of his contract. Even if you don't, take the non-guarantee part of DeMar DeRozan's contract, it's the last year of him as well. And then you can start trying to start planning what your next steps are around players like Keegan Murray, like Clifford, like whoever you draft in the top 10 this year, right? Like you can move on with that and move into a new young core and then try to start clearing this thing out. Take advantage of any salary cap space that you have to take on bad contracts, stack the deck for picks going forward into the next few years. So, like I said, with the cap space situation being bad for the Sacramento Kings, I want to be clear. They have $104 million beneath the first tax apron in 2027-28, the summer of 27. So again, your flexibility is coming. You just have to make sure, if you're the Kings, you have to go through this trying not to add any other bad long-term money, right? So you're treating everything as one-year deals. Everything that you do this summer is probably going to be 1 year. If you bring Russ back, it's going to be 1 year. Zach LaVine is picking up it for one more season. DeMar DeRozan you have for one season. And then you're looking at the clarity that's provided with that coming out of next season, but you're probably not getting any clear direction unless you get the number 1 pick or you get a top 4 pick. You get lucky in that space, that's where you can start, really having a brighter future if it comes down to that. So, Kings fans, if you're watching this, let me know. I think the biggest bright spot that you have for the Sacramento Kings really just comes down to, do you get luck in this lottery? If you get luck in this lottery, it starts clearing up a lot more for you. And then your future cap flexibility, all that stuff really looks good. Your trade outlook for this one, when it comes down to it, is that I just don't know what the Kings can really do as far as of a trade, right? You're going to want to clear the books. So you're going to want to, I think, take advantage of anybody. At the trade deadline, sell everybody who's under contract off if any team has anyone for those guys. But it also could be that none of those guys have tremendous value around the league. DeMar DeRozan has now been in free agency twice, right? Over the last 5-ish years, and nobody's wanted to bite on him in free agency. So you've been you were the one that signed and traded for him last year, and that kind of saved him in that sense, right? So you have that part that you're looking at as well. So the Kings are just going to have to figure it out. And the future that comes with the Kings is going to be really interesting, because Zach LaVine's picking up that option. Russell Westbrook wants to come back. For what it's worth, Russ says it's been great for him in there, so that's great, right? But the Kings just have, and Russ has put up a solid season. 15 points, 6.7 assists, again, 5.4 rebounds. He shot 42% from the field, 33% from 3, which is decent enough for him. So even with that, you see what you have. And so I think with the Kings, if we're looking at this offseason outlook, it just comes down to the only thing that can really start saving the direction for the Kings is future financial flexibility and getting luck in the lottery this year. Can they do it? We shall see. Let me know what you guys think is if in regards to the Kings down below. Let me know what you guys think on all of this. But which team, I'm going to continue asking this, has the worst offseason outlook and is in the worst situation? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.